And we are live and recording. So this is wonderful. We are recording and live. Welcome, Akinsanya, Kizar, Palumi, Willies, and Jehoshaphat. So, Jehoshaphat, it's been a pleasure working with all of you. Some of you are working for clients, getting good work from LD. Some of you are working internally for LD. Some of you have worked on GitHub blog projects and are considering starting companies as well. One of the things that I noticed, and I noticed that there's so many wonderful engineers in our network and there are not enough opportunities for them. And so I thought that what if, in addition to matching developers to clients, we could also let developers start their own startup ideas and LD can invest. And we have started this program now. I promised we'd start it and we have started it. So I'm so happy. And actually one of our engineers, Vatsal, actually, and Jehoshaphat have already taken part in LD Ventures, and they've both started startup ideas in this area. So hi, Vatsal and Jehoshaphat. So Vatsal, you can't hear us? Can everyone else hear?
No, our boy can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, Vatsal,
Hey,
not sure why you can't hear. Maybe we could use the chat to. So Vatsal, you can't hear us. Everyone else can. So maybe might be on your end. Perhaps join using another device or maybe another, just another time, or retry basically. So before we get off to the real work of things, I was thinking that it might be useful for us to just start off with a general discussion on themes of mental health, because both the startups today that we're talking about have to do with mental health. And so you know, when I was looking back on my childhood as I was preparing for this webinar, and I just remembered that as a child, my friends and I, we would create these little organizations, even these cults, different types of crazy things that we would do. And we would make one of our friends, in middle school, one of the things that we used to do is we used to make fun of one of our friends and blame everything on him. And it was really funny for us, but at the same time, it could have been harmful for that friend. And then in another time, if the other person became the person who got picked on, that would be not good. And so, you know, everything's moral relativism. Where does play end and bullying begin? But it is something that is kind of crazy, because everything that went wrong, we would blame it on that friend and he would get mad. And then we switched up which friend we'd blame things on. So that was a tidbit from my childhood. Another thing, in high school, my friends and I, we would do this thing where we made one of our friends into a god, and we would write his name in small yellow marker on the whiteboards in all the teachers' classrooms, and the teachers would get mad because they wouldn't notice, and all the kids would be laughing because that kid's name is written in the top right, and while they're teaching, all the kids are just talking about that kid and how we made a god out of him, and or made like a crazy organization around him. And so we had all these kinds of games, and I guess the point of what I'm saying here is that little children and young people, they have these different ways of coping. They create organizations and, you know, these little types of groups, and they might make fun of one kid one day, make fun of another kid another day, praise another kid one day, praise another kid another day. But the thing is that they let go. They have this short-term memory where one kid is having a great day one day and another kid is having a great day another day. And so that's the thing with children, is that they sort of let go and they keep moving on. They make fun of each other and they move on. And I think that as we get into adulthood, we stop moving on. And when we stop moving on, we hold on to things. We fixate ourselves as we are this person and we can never change. And I think that's something that really is a mark of adulthood, is that when something happens to us, we ingrain that as like that becomes part of us. And so, yeah. So by the way, Vatsal, can you hear us now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. So that's one thing. And so before we get into this discussion on mental health apps, AI for mental health, I'd like to say that I'd like to start with a few quotes. So one of the quotes is from John D. Rockefeller, and he's obviously a very successful business person, the first billionaire in 19th century, business tycoon in the United States, oil tycoon, very famous. Rockefeller University is named after him. Rockefeller Square in New York City is named after him. And so his quote is, "My life has been one long, happy holiday, full of work and full of play. I dropped the worry along the way. And God is good to me every day." So that's from John D. Rockefeller. And I think one of the things that we can see from him is that early on in his childhood, he was in Cincinnati, in Ohio, making a lot of money, dealing with oil, dealing with the stresses of scaling a company. But as he got older and he realized he has fewer and fewer days left, he started to realize how important it might be to just enjoy life. And so obviously Rockefeller is a controversial figure. There are people who don't like him. Unions didn't like John D. Rockefeller. But the point is that when you're doing business, there are going to be people who don't like you. And so that is a quote from John D. Rockefeller. Now I'm going to move to someone more fun. So Rockefeller was rich. Jimmy Buffett, however, is one of my favorite singers. He's a country singer, but he's also just a general, what he calls island escapist. So he has built an entire franchise on this idea of island escapism. He sings about travel. He sings about going to warm islands and just enjoying life. The thing is, he's also a successful business person. So he's not a billionaire, but he's worth $400 million, I think. He owns a series of restaurants themed after Margaritaville, has a fan following called Parrot Heads, and he is one of my role models, one of my 6 role models. And I'll talk about my other role models one day. But Jimmy Buffett, this is a quote from his song "Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes." He said, "Through all of our running and all of our cunning, if we couldn't laugh, we would all go insane." One of my favorite quotes. And that's one of my favorite quotes. And I'm wondering if I'll actually stop here and just see if any of you have anything to say on this quote. Through all of our running and all of our cunning, if we couldn't laugh, we would all go insane. Well, I'll say that this is a good quote. And I think what it's saying is that sometimes, especially in business, when you're starting to start your own businesses as well, sometimes it can be a lot of work to get that first customer, that first paying customer. And it feels like, is it really worth it or not? And sometimes things are not worth it, and sometimes things are worth it. And trying to understand what's worth it, what's not, assessing that in perspective of your life. When you're a business person, there's a reason why business schools, like, for instance, the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad, or Stanford School of Business in California in the US, or Yale or Harvard schools of business on the East Coast of the United States, they all have classes on happiness. They have classes on positive psychology. Because when you're doing business, it's so much more important to understand your time, understand how to make yourself feel happy every day, because it's a lot of work, and to keep persisting at it can be tough if you don't have strategies for that, and strategies for understanding what's worth it. Another quote from Jimmy Buffett that I'd like to share is, It's a song about a street sweeper titled "It's My Job." So a lot of the times when you live in majority world countries in Asia or Africa, you will see a lot of people doing labor, menial labor, cleaning streets. Those are not as automated over there. Doing work like cleaning, doing work like driving a rickshaw or an auto or things like that. And when we look at those people, we can learn something from them. People who clean bathrooms as well. One of the songs by Jimmy Buffett titled "It's My Job" is about a street sweeper. And here's a quote from the song. "It's strange how good he felt. So I asked him as he swept, and he said, 'It's my job to be cleaning up this mess. And that's the reason to go for me. It's my job to be better than the rest, and that makes the day for me.'" So this person is a street sweeper, and he is taking pride in his work. And I think this is something that we can learn from people. When you see that electrician or that, the plumber, you see the street sweeper, or you see the electrical engineer, you see the doctor, or you see the person who cleans the bathrooms of an airport, or the person who cleans the bathrooms of a train station, or anyone. You can see the people who take pride in their work will be successful, from a technology entrepreneur to a professor to a chemist to a software engineer to a street sweeper. You see the people who take pride in their work, the people who make clothes. And I think this segues me into what I'm wearing today. So the last 3 town halls and the last several videos I've created on how to use LD for clients, I wore a suit. I wore maybe not a full suit, but I wore the LD t-shirt and I wore a blazer. So I wore Western attire. Today I decided to wear from Manyavar, which makes kurtas. And I think that this kind of clothing is there very prevalently in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and in Africa. I remember watching this movie, Lionheart, Nigerian movie. And, there's in Nigeria, it's like, there's a lot of Christians in Nigeria and Muslims in Nigeria. And I think maybe they wear different attire. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in that movie, there's Lionheart, and there's this guy named Hamza Maikano who teams up. I don't know which part of Nigeria they are, whether some parts of Nigeria, maybe east versus west or something. But Hamza comes in and he's wearing something that's kind of like this. And so what I noticed is that different types of there are different types of attire that are worn in Africa and Asia and things. And as the world transitions to wearing only a standardized modern attire, we lose sort of these things that are worn in Africa and Asia sort of lose their full use. Why can't we wear these to work when we're in Zoom, remote work, or whether we're in the office? We can. And I really appreciate that. I don't know. I think Adeoluwa Akinsanya, his picture over there, he is wearing a maybe either traditional or somewhat traditional attire. And it kind of, one thing I noticed is that if some of the traditional attire becomes more popular, then that business can also flourish, right? If people around the world wear a traditional African and Indian clothing, for instance, or indigenous American clothing on more occasions, then there'll be more creativity, more diversity, and richness in business, especially if you wear this to business meetings. But also it can make it just easier for those entrepreneurs to spread their styles as well. And so this is something, it can improve the world, as if we start using some of the clothing. There are very interesting similarities that I've watched so many, in my life, I've seen so many Bollywood movies, but recently I've watched a lot of Nigerian movies, and I've seen the different types of interesting clothing that are worn in African movies, and hearing and seeing the similarities between South Asian and African clothing has been interesting. And I just love to see people capitalize on that sort of market as well, is try to create a market around the world for these types of fabrics. And, there's a lot of similarities I noticed just in general. Like Enugu is a town in Nigeria. I don't know if it's like one of the bigger cities in Nigeria. And it's also the meaning of Enugu. I don't know what it means in Igbo or Yoruba or whatever language, Nigerian language, but in Telugu, which is my native, which is my mother tongue, Enugu actually means elephant. So I'm curious if any of you know what Enugu means in. It's interesting. It's the same word in our language for a different meaning. I'm wondering what it means in Nigerian languages, if anyone knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it means mountaintop.
Interesting. So it means mountaintop for you, and it means it means elephant for us, but both are big. Fascinating. I don't know if that etymology is anywhere related. Probably not. But it's interesting. So those are some of the things I wanted to start off our webinar with. Some of the thoughts around mental health, some of the thoughts around supporting majority world entrepreneurs, especially from Asia and Africa, and starting companies that target global markets, so that we can see more diversity in entrepreneurship. So before one tidbit about my personality. Since I guess if you're going to be starting companies and I'm going to be helping you start them, then maybe it would be good. I'm a big believer in value. So some people might think I'm cheap, or I'm simple, and it's interesting. I'm not. I like spending money where things are valuable. So I believe in valuable. But one of the things that's funny is that Vatsal mentioned Manyavar is an expensive brand. And so that is true. And I probably would never buy this clothing on my own. I don't believe in show and things like that. And I'm not great at UI design. I needed to hire Palumi to help me with UI design because I'm not great myself in UI design. And I've hired other people to help me with UI design as well. I'm not great with clothing, fashion, looks, things like that. I'm very simple. This itself was my thank you, Vatsal. This itself was what I wore in my sister's, one of the ceremonies in my sister's wedding, and I would never buy this on my own. My parents bought this for me, and I was telling my mom here, I was like, this was expensive. I want to make best use of it. I want to get my money's worth of it. I'm going to use it for the webinars. And I want to use all my suits and, sitting at home in the new normal, we just wear our pajamas every day and code on our computers and wear free company t-shirts and don't really have use for all these, suits that I have at home and all these different traditional clothings as well. Don't really use it. You wear it in marriages once a year, but you really want to get value out of things. I wouldn't quite, I would say that, these things, one of the things my late grandfather told me is that you should use good things. You should make good use of things. And I think that's one of the shames, is that we don't make good use of the resources that we have. And there are so many important things, resources. So I think one of the things in South Asia, in India, Pakistan, there's so many brilliant people, but one of the problems is that people just copy other people. And there's so much latent creativity that's not made use of. In Africa, you have that plus another thing. In Africa, there's so many rich natural resources. A lot of the oil in the world, well, oil is not exactly clean, but a lot of the sunlight in the world is in the Sahara Desert. And we don't see enough solar panels being placed there using those natural resources. A lot of the resources in sub-Saharan Africa are not used. And when they are used, it's Western companies using them, or maybe recently China is also trying to use some of those resources, but we don't see enough usage by African entrepreneurs of those resources. Now, you may say that there are political issues. So that's not the first problem that we're going to be able to address with LD Ventures. Right now, we'll probably see entrepreneurs from Africa starting technology companies, which is great. But as we get bigger, we can think about a lot of the arable farmland in Africa can be used. And as we all get richer as LD entrepreneurs, maybe some of you, and especially the ones in Africa, can start looking at some of the more physical resources as well. But of course, right now, we need to focus on technology, since with physical things, especially in Africa, it can be tough to break in politically, I would imagine. But yeah, so we can start our entrepreneurship with technology. In India, again, we'll also start with technology entrepreneurship, but there are so many opportunities in both areas. Anyone, if you have anything to say, just step in. But the important thing is seeing value, making best use of resources, getting full use out of resources. And
I think we are already creating values by all these things, actually. This is how we are some or the other way creating values. I mean, let us say this idea of wearing traditional is also creating some sort of value. Like a lot of people will watch it and will get idea like this type of traditional wear is pretty much known. So this is a value we are creating for our own culture. So, I mean, this is quite innovative and good idea. Otherwise, normally I hear that all the Western clients, all the in Indian companies, it is told that always wear formal attire, wear suit or something. So kind of like this is definitely, I mean, this is rarely we see something like this. It is really definitely creating value. It is giving a kind of a push to our different culture and diversity.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that Adeoluwa Akinsanya also wore some, at least his display picture has some traditional attire as well. At least I think it is, because that is really just wonderful to see the diversity across both South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc., as well as across, Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, etc. One of the other examples that I had before we get into the specific ideas is when you're starting these companies, and I'm so happy that today, so Vatsal and Jehoshaphat, they are working through the milestones of LD Ventures, and we're trying to like sort of understand their startup ideas and try to guide them along the way. And today we had another sign up. I think many of you might have seen Precious. Precious signed up. And so I'm really happy that he signed up. Iari Tufu Precious signed up. And maybe if you can pronounce his name better, you can say it if any of you. Iari Tufu. And so if any of you know how to pronounce his name better, you can say it. And so hopefully he'll also be doing it, and hopefully more of you will start some companies right there from Nigeria, from India. You can start companies from Pakistan, from Uganda, from Nepal. You can start companies right there and target the US market through LD Ventures. One of the other things that, as you're thinking about entrepreneurship, you're thinking about business and money and things, I'll give you another example of making use of things, making full use of things. I am the kind of person who does not drive a car to the grocery store. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because here, I could just take the car and go to the grocery store and then drive back. But I have a threefold reason to walk to a grocery store instead. So one thing is, if I walk to the grocery store and come back, or go on a bicycle where it's a old-fashioned bicycle where I have not an electric bicycle, but an old-fashioned bicycle, I get exercise. So that's one thing, I get my exercise. Number two is I fall asleep at night. Because I've done enough exercise, I get better sleep at night because I'm more tired. And number three is I'm saving money and saving gas because I'm not using the car to go. I think that's one of the things that we see, especially as people get richer in Asia, in Africa, is that you just see more usage of cars and things that are going to pollute the environment, as opposed to embracing things like remote work and embracing things like just bicycles and walking and cities and things. And so So hopefully as cities improve, you know, in India and maybe even in parts of Africa, it can be difficult because the cities are polluted and the cities are crowded. It's difficult to get around on bicycle or walk. But it's also really important to see that form fits function. When you're doing entrepreneurship, you don't want to just do things for frills. Everything costs money. So everything should be used to its full ability and should be meaningful. And that's something I'm trying to learn in UI design. Don't clog the page with too many widgets. That's the problem that I have. Just do only things that are needed. And so with that, I've talked a lot. And so I'd love to sort of talk about some of the specific ideas with Jehoshaphat and Vatsal. And since Vatsal has inputted, we'll start with Jehoshaphat, since Vatsal has given some input on this webinar so far. And so Jehoshaphat, maybe to keep this simple, I'll just summarize for you. He's looking at mental health and particularly areas of building voice applications. As you know, Clubhouse has become super popular. Audio applications have become super popular right now. VR and AR are also big themes. But ways to create mental health applications that you know, can leverage some of that more, not just like an app on a screen, but other ways of looking at mental health applications that can leverage some of these more like AR or voice app type of technologies. And one of the other big differentiations that he's looking at is virtual humans analyzing facial expression using more AI than what are used by most applications right now. And I'd love to hear, Jehoshaphat, if you are free right now to talk, I'd love to hear you talk about some of the more specifics that you're interested in so that some of the other members of this webinar can give you some feedback on your specific ideas.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So specifically, the idea, as Gobi mentioned, is to integrate AI with components from XR, AR, VR, MR into solving for mental health. So from being able to talk to the virtual human, so the idea is to give the virtual human a name, where you have an Alexa virtual human will have a name, and then you can talk to it from any audio-enabled devices, starting from smart speakers. So if you are on a Google Home or an Amazon Echo, you can call it up and have conversations with it. If you are in VR, you can interact with it in VR. And then because you are in VR, you should be able to see the visualization, like the life form of the virtual human. So depending on the platform you are interacting with the virtual human, you have a representation. On smart speakers, you have audio. In VR and AR, you can have the human form representation of it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And one of the things I'd love to highlight about your idea is it's global. You can start targeting big markets, the US market, the Europe market, the global market. You can start targeting them with this idea because it's general and global. And I really like that. I really like also that you touch upon the fact in your LD Ventures spreadsheet that we're working on together that right now people pay hundreds of dollars per hour. A psychiatrist, they could charge $100 to $200 per hour for a session. And your idea is basically making it psychiatry easy and more personal. You don't have to reveal to the psychiatrist personal personal information, because you're just talking to a AI psychiatrist right now. So you don't feel that risk that it's another human being in society. I don't know if any of you have seen Breaking Bad. I'm going through it right now, but in Breaking Bad, super popular show on Netflix, Marie is talking to her shrink, and she's not able to say everything that she wants to say because it's another human being. Whereas if it's an AI, then you can say more and you can feel more comfortable. Similar with AI tutors and things like that in other domains, but in mental health, it's particularly poignant. I think that's good. I really like.
We've seen a lot of data from places like ICT at University of Southern California that people are more comfortable talking to an AI than an expert like a shrink. Like there are so many things I can tell an AI that I may never tell my shrink.
Yeah. And I think you in particular, Jehoshaphat, you have a good, diverse experience across both UI, UX type of design work, full stack development, and also you're familiar with, machine learning libraries and like, about dialogue flow and things like that. And you might look at TensorFlow or something like that. And as well as you have experience with the Unity, AR type of side. So you have such a general span of technology background, that you would be well positioned to sort of start this this company, and as you grow bigger, you could maybe hire fellow LD engineers who could help you work on it once you build a first version. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. I was wondering if you have you have many people here right now. So is there anything that would help you, that you had questions about, that you want to ask the rest of the people here? Because you're in a place right now where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other super smart people, but who could also maybe be people who understand your customers, people who understand things you have to do. What do you want to ask them right now to basically get some feedback on your idea?
Everyone listening, if you have a product that basically does what your shrink would do and give you a level of confidentiality and openness that you may not get from your therapist, would you pay 10 to $50 or 10 to 50 pounds monthly to have access to that kind of a product that you can use? If you decide to chat with it, you can chat with it. If you decide to talk using your voices, it can hear you and respond. If you show it pictures of maybe if it sees your face, it can read your facial expression. If you have a wound on your leg, show it a picture of the wound, it can engage in a conversation with you based on the picture of your wound that you've showed it, and you've told it that you just had a domestic accident. Like, it can really talk with you on that level. Would you pay such amount, or do you think people will pay that amount for that kind of a product? People in America and people in Europe.
Actually, me personally, I would first need assurance that my information is going to be safe, and how much value I'm gaining from interacting with the AI. Like, maybe after some period there, I would appreciate, and that value would be the reason why I would be willing to give you that money.
Hey,
I think yeah.
So for the point you mentioned about privacy, one of the core things that I'm building into the product is privacy. like your data will be so secure, both on the devices, on transit, and in the cloud. We'll be working with your data in a way that your data is anonymous. So even me, the engineer working on the product, the data we use to train the product will not know that, okay, this particular data came from Akinsanya. We not know that this particular data came from Gobi. The data will be anonymized when we use data for training. So you can be sure that nobody will have access to your data. Nobody. Because they will be
even
anonymized
advertisers.
and they will be encrypted. Huh?
Even advertisers.
No. It will not get to any advertiser. One of the reasons why payment for the product is necessary, developing this kind of product costs a lot of money. One way other people working on this kind of thing make money is allowing advertisers onto the platform. But because of the way we want you to trust us and trust your data with us, we are not even going to allow advertisers on the platform. Not now, not in the future, never. Even for free users, they will not be given their data to any advertisers. It will never happen on the platform.
Wonderful to hear. So actually, Akinsanya has his hand up. And so,
Okay, so actually wanted to ask, you know, well, this AI, right? You have to train it like a lot before it can, before becomes like almost perfect, being able to answer, I don't know, queries from users. I don't know. Do you plan on having humans also to attend to users query, right? So let's say at some point I'm chatting, having video call with this AI, and then it's probably not understanding what I'm trying to like explain, and then I can decide to like, I don't know, translate to a human, what's it called, a human operator or something like that. Are there plans for
Interaction
that?
to human operations. Most of the general use cases for a conversation that you would have with a shrink or with a therapist, there are data out there from movie scripts, from novels, from newspapers. There are data out there that can get trained up to more than 70% accuracy before it gets to the hands of the user. So the remaining 30%, as it interacts with the user, it learns about the user. It gets smarter as it learns from the user. And it will let you know from the beginning that it's still learning about you and it's still learning to have serious conversation with you, so that your expectation is managed while it grows with you.
Okay.
So if it had a conversation with you today and you were not satisfied with the conversation, by the time you have a conversation with it tomorrow, I can bet that it would have learned more and your experience with it that second day will be better than the first experience you had with it. Because each data from your previous conversation, it will use that to train itself and get smarter. And the reason why we cannot transfer your conversation to a human is because of your data protection, because of your privacy. We don't want someone else seeing what.
So I've actually had conversations with a lot of AIs, right? And most times I actually would prefer conversing with an human than this AI, because most times, well, this guys, so when you talk, so there's this Amazon customer service. When you call Amazon's customer service, right, you speak to an AI, and then if the AI can understand you, they transfer you to a human agent, right?
Okay.
So I'm just saying, because most times this, what's it called? This AIs, they don't, so like my accent, right? I mean, I have a Nigerian accent, and then most likely won't like understand that. So how do you intend on handling that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So from experience I've had in the past, I've been able to learn how to deal with accents that are not the Western accent or the normal accent that AI is getting with. One thing with voice and speech problem is it gives you the result based on the data you train with. So most of the AI you've chatted with, the problem they have with their model is that they were trained with a white man's voice, some like the issue is basically bias towards the trainer. So to avoid that bias that comes from having a trainer that from having a model that only hears a Western accent, we will train this AI with all the accents that we can lay our hands on. The common ones and the uncommon ones.
Ibrahim also has his hand up.
Does that make sense, Akinsanya?
I think it's fine. Yeah, yeah.
Ibrahim, can you go ahead? Ibrahim, you had your hand up. Okay, well, you both can go on then. Akinsanya and Jehoshaphat.
I think you already answered my question. So you said
Okay,
something
so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So cool has his hand up. And so
Are you planning to build the solution for maybe a country or a certain
I'm losing you.
can I go on?
Hear you.
Okay, yeah, it's all messed up. it's slow. Try again. Or if it's not working, then you can type the message and I can read it aloud if you'd like.
Okay, as he types.
Yeah.
So no, the user's first experience like would determine whether they would stay or not. So if the AI is going to learn from the first time I come to join, won't I lose interest if I get a bad experience the first time?
So the first time you will interact with the AI as it introduces itself to you, it will let you know first that it's still a baby learning about you. And my assumption is that you will not get mad talking with a baby for the first time. No matter how frustrating it is, you may want to give the baby another chance. So your initial contact with the AI, the accuracy will be about 70 to 80%.
No, my assumption would be for me to go to a shrink, like I assume that they're a professional. So if I come to your platform and like I'm starting with a baby, then I don't know.
No, baby intends in the scenario that if you ask it a question that is out of the context of what you would tell a therapist, it may not have gotten to that point. But if it's within the context of the conversation you will have with a therapist, it will answer, it will give you the appropriate answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think my network is good now.
Great. And for it looks like your network is good, but by the way, networks in general in developing and emerging markets, another startup problem, not for us right now since we're dealing with software, but again, if that is something that is an issue that people startups need to solve this problem because internet connections can be really annoying and maybe there are ways to solve that problem. But that's aside. Let's come back to this topic now. Go ahead, Ibrahim. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, so I was about to ask a question which I think you already answered, but I want you to make a more clarification on that. So I want to come.
Hello? Go ahead.
Everyone. That means, of course, you'll be getting the data from different angles. And I read an article concerning bots, chatbot having a great normal conversation with human. So there is an engineer from Google said it claims that a chatbot will be able to have human level language ability by 2029. So now you bringing this solution like so close is a very nice thing, and I would really love to use the solution, like to use the product and see how it works. And yeah, so the question here is, are you trying to collect data from all sources, like building the solution for everyone, which will understand everyone's accent, like Akinsanya raised initially?
Yes, for the speech model, it will be able to recognize everyone's accent. So it does not matter if I mention Tunde or I mention Tune a day or I mention today. It's going to differentiate between Tunde today and Tune a day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Now I think we should switch to getting feedback on Vatsal's idea. This was great, and I think that it's also something that you all can continue onwards in some of the Slack channels. So Vatsal's idea, so this was fantastic, and I'm glad that we saw some positive support for Jehoshaphat's idea. Now, on a related front, Vatsal's idea is around basically, it can be individuals seeking jobs or business or salespeople. I would like to see the business or salespeople in, because business or salespeople have money, or anyone who just needs to make online presentations and interact online with other people. We want some sort of analytics on how we're doing. How am I presenting myself? Am I looking in the camera enough right now? Am I talking too much, too little? Or am I presenting myself well? Such. A video analytics platform that can provide such consultation, but at the same time, right? A lot of places, they might have that idea, okay, how can we help people improve themselves? But at the same time, this is also a mental health concern, because I am stressed. Am I presenting myself well enough? So many things going on. Do I need to meditate? Do I need to take a deep breath? So many things going on as I'm presenting myself. So he's taking it more like AI plus mental health plus self-presentation on Zoom in the new normal type of product to help people out. And it should be basically AI-powered, stress-free virtual interview or virtual sales call preparation platform. Also maybe analytics during the platform. Again, very similar SaaS type of model to Jehoshaphat's, which is like, $10 to $50 a month type of deal. And targeting global markets, US, Europe, global markets, and maybe individuals will pay for it. Maybe it'll be B2B eventually, but that's the overall summary. And now I'd love Vatsal to talk about specifics and in a way that can help him get feedback from the rest of the brilliant people over here.
Yeah, so ultimately what I'm looking for is like how, let us say the users are, let us say, businessmen, salespeople, and apart from that, let us say there are developers who are appearing for some interview, or the college students who are appearing for interview or presentation for any presentation. Then how would they prepare? Do they get enough kind of enough guidance or way to prepare for interview or all such things on their own. I mean, because they are not themselves enough experience, and the other person who is interviewing them or in front of whom they are giving presentation, or let us say if we consider salespeople, or if we consider businessmen, then he might be presenting some idea to a board of directors or something. So then how they would be able to practice with some proper what you can say standard feedback, rather than a feedback from a friend or someone who is not expert in that area, like presentation. So kind of a professional and standard feedback using AI. So that is what I want to provide using video and speech analytics, like how is the speech, or for example, let us say how is the posture, how is the gesture, or like as Gobi mentioned, you are looking into the camera or you are nervous a bit, or like what's going on. I mean, are you enough confident? Or I mean, lot of body language traits are there that people assess. So all these things, that's what.
You know, but so actually just the looking in the camera thing, I'm on calls, at least 2 to 3 calls every day of the week. And so maybe on weekends it's like 1, and on weekdays it's like 3 to 4. And just the looking into the camera thing, I don't remember that. I just keep forgetting. And just a Zoom add-on that could tell me to look into the camera, it's such a small MVP that can really test your ideas. But I'm curious to hear some of the feedback other people have. One of the feedbacks that I have is just, you know what? I'll reserve my feedback till afterwards. Let's hear some of the feedback that other people have on your idea.
Maybe a question, like, are you going to build a new platform for chatting, or it's going to do a screen recording of maybe Zoom or other platforms, so that they don't have to implement the feature in the product?
Yeah, so screen recording will be part of the product. Not screen, I mean camera recording. I mean, you can record your own camera kind of video feed.
So you'll be tapping the video feed of Zoom?
Not Zoom, actually. It is like this is a separate platform. So see, we can tap definitely from Zoom, but this is not like that. This is a separate platform where you can do a preparation for yourself. I mean, we can integrate it with the Zoom as well later on, or any other platform if they want to record live something. However, this is not to record any ongoing conference or meeting. This is more like a self preparation kind of video analytics platform.
Ah, okay. Maybe I communicated that wrong then. So this is a platform for self-prepare. That's right. That's what I knew in the beginning. And maybe later you could also add like in real-time help. And that would have to be a Zoom or Google Hangout add-on. I think Zoom maybe allows add-ons. I don't know. But like the self-preparation thing, that thing you can do without integrating into Zoom or Google Hangout or whatever. But if it's in real time, then you would need, if you want a real-time coach, then yeah, you would probably need to integrate into Zoom. Any thoughts on that? So cool.
No, it's a brilliant idea, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, I guess I could share with you what I do on calls. So whenever I'm on a sales call with a client, I sort of have in my mind, like, I should try to exhibit interest in what they're saying. So I should try to like relate what they're saying to something I'm interested in. I should try to express that interest. I should try to point out something that I like about what they're talking about, their idea. I try to like point out what I empathize with their position, or any sort of like questions I have on why they're doing what they're doing, or what are they doing, what are the need for what they're doing, or the market, etc. I try to like have a set of general questions that I can ask, but in a specific way on any given person I'm talking to. And even when I'm talking to my friends, right? So that's a sales call. And the last thing I do in a sales call is just get feedback, ask for feedback. So I sort of like have a script, but it's not too scripted. It's just like a set of things that I do to try to like engage the person. But things like my body gestures and things, that is something I don't necessarily do as much. But one thing I like about your platform is that it sort of removes my need to have all these scripts. It sort of helps me enjoy the conversation without always thinking about what do I have written down on my sheet. Now, one of the things that I do for friends calls, it's like, you know, sometimes with friends, especially after a long time, it's, what are you going to talk about? Well, you could talk about, I try to keep on my tabs. Like I could talk about their, you know, their work or their friends, family, different activities that they do. I try to like keep a note of different things I could talk about with different people, because sometimes when you're with persons, awkward silences are okay, but sometimes it's awkward silences are just a waste of time also, especially when you have limited time with people. So those are some of the things that I have in my life. I guess I would like to ask one thing of Vatsal. Why would people sort of, how would you get enough signal so that people actually do it? Like, this sounds like one of those things that's like, oh, that's cool. But then when you come down to it, will people actually pick it up and install it or use it? Is it enough of a pain point for people? And also, it's one of those things like preventative medicine. Usually people react when there's a problem. So if there's a problem, people pay for something to fix that problem. But this is more like preparation, prevention of failure, things like that. And people are less good about it because, like, okay, I went to an interview and I didn't do well and I flunked the interview, or I did a sales pitch, I didn't get the client, I lost the client, or whatever. Then after you lose the client, between when you lose the client, right after you lose the client, if you go to that person and say, hey, notice you lost this client, this service, it might be because of your call. If you could point out with specific data, like there's a 30% likelihood or a 70% likelihood that it's because of the way you presented yourself. Getting your foot in the door at that moment to say, use this software on, when's your next client call? Use this software, and I think that you'll have this percentage more chance of converting that client. That kind of thing, while it sounds nice, I think it might actually be very difficult to actually know when somebody is actually in the right time to be, you know, caring enough about this problem to actually do something about it and use your service. And I'm curious when you're gonna get at them.
See, basically what I am trying to do is like, it is more like a general your presentation skill and preparation, right? So it is whoever wants to improve his presentation skill, whether he's a salesperson or he is a businessman or he is a student or who is a job seeker, is a very generic platform. Now, once you improve your interaction skill, you get benefit out of it. So you can just directly mention to the salespeople that we want to improve your sales pitch, or let us say we want to improve your presentation skill, or what you shouldn't be doing so that you definitely miss the client, or how much are the chances that you would miss the client, looking at their skill. So that's what kind of pitching I can do, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess a business person, I get a lot of LinkedIn messages selling me executive coaching services. So a lot of people will come to me and say, do you want to make your sales pitch better? Do you want to make your presentation of yourself better as an executive coach? Now, I know you're using AI and you're going to do it much more efficiently and as a subscription model and all, and you're not an executive coaching service. I got that. So you're modern. That's good. But how to really get at them, I had an idea. My idea is, people care about themselves. They like to know things about themselves. You know, one of the things that like really like works well is when you see people, they go online and they'll be like those surveys or whatever of like, oh, how how good looking are you? Upload your picture and we'll do an AI and generate a report for you of how good looking you are. Or how good are you, how emotionally intelligent are you? Complete this survey. And you know what? Those surveys are such a waste of time, but people actually still do them because
Right.
they want to know something about themselves. People are eager
Exactly.
to get that feedback from some AI or for some person. They want a grade. They want a grade. So if you could basically say, you know what? Do you want to know how good you are on a scale of 1 to 10 in presenting yourself? Just jump on this link right now. It'll take 10 seconds and just say hello and what your name is and what you do. It'll take 10 seconds, close it, and then our AI will immediately give you a score. And maybe that is low bar enough so that if you could design something like that, people will jump in, they'll get the score, and then they thought that they were such a good presenter. Like, I think I'll get a 95%. I go in and I get 52%. That's a F grade or a D grade or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, what was the problem with me? And then I sort of start to think, okay, let me sign up and create an account. And then I use it for free. And then maybe one day I like some of the features that I want to get good enough that I'll pay money. It's going to be something like that you have to get the hook in. Because if you just try to reach out to people directly saying, notice you're a salesperson, do you want to improve your pitch? Nobody's going to pay attention.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, the point which you made is pretty much perfect. I mean, normally people want to know about them the most.
Yeah.
So that's the way it makes sense.
Did you want to talk at all about the mental health angle of what you're doing?
Yeah, mental health is also something which I plan to analyze using the video analytics and the speech. I mean, let us say whenever the person is not in a good mood, his speech is a bit down and the sound and tone is also low. And looking at the facial expression, also some of the mood you can guess, like he's not happy or some sort of sad or something. So that's also that's also something, some analytics one can provide using the platform, that how the situation is. Then we can have some sort of personality test using the same thing, a different type of personality test. How to tell someone to attend that personality test is a different thing, but at least I plan to analyze those things to provide based on the video and speech. That is for sure. Now, how to tell them that use this platform for this is something which I haven't thought of yet.
Okay. I was curious actually if Jehoshaphat, if you had feedback for Vatsal on his idea. And yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea is a great idea. So I was thinking about it and how the analysis, is it something that is going to be biased towards a particular person? For instance, the way it looks at somebody that is more light skinned will be different than the way it sees somebody that is of a darker skin tone. But we've seen a lot of video feed analysis AI products that are always biased towards people with lighter skin tone. Do you have that in mind while trying to solve this problem?
Yeah, I mean, it is more like how are the sentiments kind of, or what may be the mood state of the person. So even if you ask someone, I mean, it depends on how many things you want to analyze. And I mean, let us say you are saying something, and maybe from the video and audio I can say like the person uses these many words frequently. So what might be something wrong with him or something like that?
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't analyze like the way my gesture is happening, the way I'm nodding my head. It analyzes my voice, what I'm saying, if I got that correctly.
Yeah, I mean a voice, or yeah, how you are nodding your head, or kind of you look happy, tone or pitch of your sounds, all sort of
So
things.
I think what he was saying was, um, for different skin tones, you might have different levels of accuracy on some of the things that might depend on skin tone. Now, nodding your head, that actually might not depend on skin tone, but maybe like more specific things like smiling or things like that, those maybe might, I don't know. Now, one thing is maybe you could talk about how you'll make sure that the training data will be fully diverse or something along those lines.
That is actually implementation part. Right now, we are just discussing the idea. In implementation, how can make the data without bias and all those things are secondary. I mean, that we can definitely take care when we start testing and doing something. I mean, so that is altogether a different problem. Right now, the main problem is what we are trying to do.
Okay. So we should wrap up soon. Vatsal, did you have any feedback on Jehoshaphat's idea? And as a reminder, his idea is to build, use technologies other than just screen technologies, but also audio apps, VR, AR types of technologies to create virtual human interactions with people so that they can talk to them and confide in them.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that is a good idea. One of the similar type of point I was also thinking. So, I mean, I have thought of it. So, this is like that is a good idea to. I mean, definitely it will help people to unwind and speak something. And many people may not be comfortable speaking in front of everyone, so they would definitely prefer to speak to some sort of software and AI agent. However, one thing is also there that in mental health area, often that is also a case that people need a bit of a human touch. So it is like a kind of empathy which they expect from humans. They may not feel that much from software. So ultimately, they should not feel like they are talking to a wall. That's it.
I'll add one more
Yeah,
thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
thank you very much, Vasek. I think that's one of the things I'm trying to build into it by making it so that you can see your expression and make it as humanly possible as you can make the AI.
Because ultimately, I think whatever is the mental problem, but the people seek some sort of love and feelings from other people. So that empathy and feeling is very important in mental health issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what, Jehoshaphat, right now, meditation apps are really popular. I get up in the morning and I use it, and a lot of people do. But like, one of the things that I was thinking about was actually, how are you going to get your foot in the door? Maybe it's not actually like things that are passive, like just talk about whatever. People may not feel like as comfortable with sort of just revealing their things immediately. So maybe if you like have a chat bot that's sort of on, I don't know, you reach out to people on email or Facebook or LinkedIn or social or whatever, maybe the first thing you just do, like to get your foot in the door, to maybe is something like you create like a self-assessment, similar to what I suggested to Vatsal, but a little bit different in your case. A self-assessment, which is like, 10 activities that will help you wind down, and you can do them in the next 5 minutes. Are you pissed off right now? Here are 10 activities, and then you click the link and you go. And the first thing the screen tells you to do is shout as loud as you can and scream as loud as you can into your computer. And people will have fun with it. They'll be like, oh, this is something different. This application is telling me to scream into my computer. So I scream into my computer. And then now the application tells, good, you have released this many, I don't know, sources of tension right now. And then now I want you to jump up and down like you're crazy, and the application will sort of like something like that. It doesn't have to be this, but something like that that can sort of like get something different that'll sort of lure people in to start like trying this pre-test. And then it'll tell you now breathe deeply 10 times and look into the camera after you breathe deeply or something. And then at the end of those like 4 or 5 activities or something, is like you have a mental health score of something like this. And you don't want to gamify it too much, because already numbers and games and grading and things create stress and pressure. But at the same time, you do need a way to sort of get your foot in the door, an experience that's like a landing page that'll get people to sort of sign up and get into some of the more meaningful sections of what you're doing.
That's fantastic. I'll consider it in there.
Did you have any ideas on how you're going to get your foot in the door to like get people to try for the first time what you're trying to use, Jehoshaphat?
So the idea I was exploring was using blogging, ads, content marketing to make people know that there's a new guy on the blog and he's better than every other guy, and you give him a try and see for yourself. That was the idea I was exploring.
Yeah, I think that'll be strong too. A lot of people look up their worries online. Google is a great confidant. Yeah. Okay, that's excellent. I think that we talked well, and we should conclude. So I want to just say I really liked the way that Vatsal presented his idea on how we can make best use of these existing AI technologies to actually help people prepare and do a better job. I really thought that was a strong thing. And I also liked, Jehoshaphat, the way that you sort of helped us empathize with the user, understand their condition, and then thinking about more modern ways of their interactions. I really appreciated different comments that we got from the audience on specifically trying to tease apart some of the risks or challenges to these ideas around how people might be comfortable or not with using some of these technologies. So I appreciate that as well. I think with that said, I'm happy to conclude. All right. For the people remaining here, Jehoshaphat, Vatsal, Akinsanya, Palumi, Brian, and everyone else, thank you for showing yourselves, and we hope to continue seeing more and more LD Ventures ideas come in and support majority world entrepreneurship and targeting global markets.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.